Grappa. I have always wanted to make grappa. In fact, I've never made anything with fruit on this channel before, but that's changed because now, well, I've made grappa. How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse, and this is still at the channel all about chasing the craft of home distillation and making it a legitimate hobby. Yes, guys, I have finally made something with fruit, and I've popped my fruit cherry with grappa, which is something that I've wanted to make for so long. It's absolutely fascinating to me, and I've finally made it happen. I can't wait to share with you the exact way that I made it and the stuff I made it from, and then of course give you a little bit of a taste test at the end. You would have seen all those jars that I had out in the intro. I'm experimenting. I'm doing a few different things with the final result because I ended up with quite a bit of it. But enough talking, guys, let's get stuck straight in. To make this stuff, I had to take a little road trip. To make grappa, you need grapes. That's just a fact. It's the way it works. Another fact is I don't have any grapes. So for this one, I needed to take a little road trip back to my roots, back to the sunny Hawke's Bay, and meet up with a very good friend of mine.
Caleb.
Jesse, my friend.
Damn good to see you, man. For those of you, no one will know this, but Khalif and I were essentially brothers way back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Haven't got to hang out a whole lot for 10 years?
About
15
that.
years?
Yeah,
we see each other every now and again. But Khalif is doing something interesting here. Tell us what you do and where we are, bro.
So I'm the cellar hand at Paritua Vineyard and Winery here in the Bridge Park Triangle on Vorkapic Road in the beautiful Hawke's Bay. We make some premium reds, and we've decided that we'll use some of the skins from the reds to make some grappa.
Awesome. I'm going to show you around this place first of all, guys, and then we'll get stuck into figuring out what you got to say for us.
Definitely.
Paritua Winery is located on the Heretaunga Plains and is named after the stream that runs literally right through the property. New Zealand's known worldwide for making white wine. That's generally what we're known for. Paritua decided to set themselves apart from the rest by focusing on super premium, big, bold red wines, which is what Jason, the head winemaker, really enjoys making. Every single drop of Paritua wine comes from grapes grown on their own 53 hectare plot of land, which gives them roughly 450 tons of grapes max per year. That limitation is what forces them to play in the premium game to really get value out of their winery. Paritua do not have a cellar door yet, but I'm told if you get in touch with them via the website, they can sort out a private little tour and tasting for you. Link in the description below. Anyway, surrounded by all this delicious wine, I had to twist Caleb's arm for a little bit of a taste.
Alright, dude, what are we drinking?
This is Paritua Vineyard's 19 Merlot. Currently been in barrel since May last year.
Sweet, let's have a nudge.
Yeah, cool. Always aerate the wine. Always. Black fruit aspects on the nose. Smooth, delicate.
No, but there's enough body left in it and enough tannin to give it mouthfeel and presence.
To give it a body, yeah.
It's delicious, man. So are these the grapes that we're stealing off you today? Same product?
So this is the Merlot, but we'll be using the Cab Sav grapes, which are grown pretty much beside these guys. And the Cab Sav, if we were drinking that, you'd have a lot more tannin profile, a lot more sort of bigger, bold,
more
aspects.
robust.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a bit more meaty, a bit more earthy, a little bit more sort of oomph in the grape variety. So let's see what that does with the grappa. Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? Let's get some shit.
Cool. Voila.
Woo! That
So-
is a lot of buckets, dude.
So we grow our Cabernet Sauvignon right here on this vineyard, and this is what the pressed product looks like after we've taken the wine out of it. She's pretty dense. Seeds, skins, all packed in there nicely.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 buckets of the press skins.
Correct?
But you've got something else for us as well then.
Yeah, sure. So once we press these grapes, once they finish their fermentation in tank, we'll let it settle in a tank for maybe a couple of days, and then we'll sort of either transfer or rack it, and we're left with some lees. And this is going to go together with the grape skins really well. Here we are. On top is some settled out Cabernet Sauvignon wine, and then underneath that will be lees for extra flavour and depth and body.
All right, dude, so just so I understand this and everyone else understands it, it's a red wine.
Correct?
So you basically crush the grapes and then you ferment on the skin?
Yeah, so what we do when we first process the grapes, we'll destem them through a distemming machine, and that will crush them at the same time, and then we will pump them into a tank. And then once they're in the tank, that's when we start the fermentation process and start the maceration and start turning them over and starting to turn the grapes into wine.
Cool, so then you essentially sieve them, for want of a better word.
Pretty much drain the wine out of the tank through a valve and through a basket, so we don't get any of the grape matter in through the free run wine.
Yep.
And then once that's all drained out, we're left with just the grape must, and that's when we do the manual labour of winemaking and dig the grapes out of the tank and put them to press to get the rest of the extraction of the wine.
So the grape skins are basically a big old sponge at that point in time. They've soaked up, they've got good wine in them still.
Yes.
That you want to get out, and that's when you press them, and that's why the must that you're giving me is so compact.
Definitely, yeah. So we want to try and get obviously as much of the product out of the grape as possible because of the bottom dollar. You know?
Yeah, of course.
But you're going to be left with some stuff left in the grape. So it does deteriorate over the fermentation process. The grapes do tend to start to break down, and that's what the lees is. That's where that sediment sort of drops to the bottom of the tank, and we sort of scrape that out, and that's what we're left with.
Cool. So we've got the must, which is the pressed grapes, and we've got the lees, which is sediment of grape plus yeast.
Some leftover yeast, yes.
And some good wine.
And some pretty premium wine.
Sweet. All right, let's get the stuff in the car.
The too long didn't read is I got some sweet, super premium Cab Sav grapes. Yep, sure, they're waste streams, but this is exactly what I want for Grappa. So, with the must and the lees back here in the shed, honestly, I was a little bit daunted by this task. I'd never done it before, so I reached out to a couple of people that I know have done a lot with stuff like this. 3 people, in fact. One is a fairly infamous home distiller here in New Zealand. Thank you for your help, dude. I appreciate it. The second was Ilias, who's actually been on the podcast before, so check that out if you get a chance. And the third was Neven, another guy who's been on the podcast. So after talking to these people, I knew that the game plan should be to do a couple of stripping runs, and then move on to a spirit run afterwards. The problem being that this stuff is so thick. You know, the lees is literally like pudding, and the skins were pressed super dry. So luckily I had the Genio. The problem was that the Genio doesn't like to do what the Genio doesn't like to do, so I essentially had to wrangle it into kind of manual mode. I left the head attached so it didn't freak out and think that everything was overheating and not working, and essentially just put that on the ground, left it plugged in, and tricked the Genio into thinking that it was heating up for the entire run, and used the manual stripping column. I don't know if this is how it's supposed to be used. They sent it to me with the rest of the kit, but they never gave me instructions on how to use it. It is what it is. That did mean that I was able to take advantage of both the agitator in the Genio and also the oil jacket, which meant I wasn't going to scorch or burn anything in the still. That worked out great. So if you are going to do this at home, guys, at the very, very least, you're going to want to move to a direct fire kettle rather than an internal element. If you have an agitator, even better, or a jacket of some sort of bain-marie style still, that's even better. Anyway, guys, so the first stripping run, I decided to do mostly wine, the wine that Caleb showed you that settled out on top of the buckets. I took most of that wine from all 3 of the lees buckets and mixed it with a little bit of the chewy lees and a whole lot of the skins and distilled that. That turned out really well. Even the stripping run tasted pretty damn good, so I wanted to do a little bit of experimentation, and for the second run I did almost entirely lees with just a little bit of wine. It was probably something like 20 litres of just straight lees, maybe 3 litres of liquidy wine,
and then a whole lot of skins. And you know what, guys? That turned out just as good, if not probably slightly better on the flavor front. So at this point, I had almost 40 liters of low wines from that stuff. This wine was pushing 15%, guys. So there was a lot of alcohol in there. And I really think there was a lot of alcohol left in the skins as well for me to get that much at that higher proof. I'd also reserved about 5 liters of nice clear wine to help stretch the volume a little bit in the still. I decided to use my 50-liter keg still with the pot head attachment, and the reason for that is it's the still that I know best, and it was just sort of best suited to that volume, I felt. So the spirit run was just run as any other, you know, pot stilled spirit run, relatively slow and steady through the whole time. I collected in individual jars like I always do when I'm doing something new, so I could take my time with the cuts and decide exactly what I wanted to do. I had been given some advice, I think this came from Neven if I remember correctly, that Grappa is almost the opposite of whiskey. So whiskey, you tend to go looking for the flavors that really make it come into its own towards the tails, and that's where you kind of run into troubles finding exactly where to cut. Neven suggested that the more fragrant, bright flavors of Grappa are similar to that of tails, but they come at the other end, they come at the heads. With that in mind, I did go a lot more headsy than I usually do, and I think I may have overcooked it just a little bit. I don't know. I think it might age out. We'll see. Anyway, guys, so at this point in time, I wanted to show you what I've ended up with, and there's a whole lot of it. Anyway, before we do that, guys, I need to say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you so much, team. It is awesome being able to do this full time and just be able to take off on a road trip for a couple of days, go and visit a buddy, get some grapes and bring them on home. And the only reason I get to do that is because of you guys. So thank you so much. If you're finding value in these videos and you'd like to help out as well, you can go to chasethecraft.com/support to find out all the different ways you can help out. One of them being, if it's right for you, Patreon. So this one here is 3 liters at 45%, just straight Grappa. It was the blend that I took from the cuts. And the idea is that I'm going to let this sit for probably, I don't know, a month. I'll nurse it and try it over that time, but it's just to let it marry, to let it mellow out a little bit, and I'm hoping some of that ethanoliness comes off in that time. Now this one is the straight distillate from the, you know, the blends that I made from the cut back down with some of the reserved wine. So this is cut back down to right around 55%, and I actually have a little piece of Balcones barrel that I recharred in there as well. This one is exactly the same thing as this, but once again with Balcones barrel, but it was cut down just with water, so I'm really interested to see how these play out. This is the same as this, exactly the same, but no wood in it. And this, because I still had more left over and I didn't know what to do with it, is French oak, cut down to 55% as well, with just a little bit of that wine in there to give it a bit of a pink hue. So all of these, I've got, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen to them, guys. I know that this is, you know, a fairly traditional way to treat Grappa. I've got no idea if this is what people ever do with Grappa. I've got no idea if that's a thing, whether I made something entirely new up, whether I did something awesome or something stupid, I don't know. So if you do know, if you know what the name of this product is, if there is a name for it, please guys, let me know in the comments down below. I've got no idea what to expect from it. So what I would like to do now, team, is pull apart and taste just the straight clear Grappa at 45% for you and give you a rough idea of what you might expect if you do something similar. I've only drunk a few Grappas in my life, guys, and as far as I know, every single one of them have been made from white grapes. This is quite different from the white grape Grappa I've had in the past, but in a way that makes sense to me. So on the nose, it reminds me straight away of Ribena. It reminds me of blackcurrant, blackberry sort of sweetness. It's really very pleasant already on the nose, guys, I have to say. A slight hint of shininess or ethanoliness. And that's what makes me think that maybe I went a little bit too far into those heads, looking for those berry-ish flavors. I will say that I don't know yet, I'll double check this, but I do wonder if that advice of looking more in the heads is more applicable to white grapes. Because straight away, what I notice the difference here being is that when it's a white grape grappa, it's more citrusy, it's more fresh, it has this green sort of quality to it, like grapes on a vine, if that makes sense. This doesn't have that. This goes the other way. This is dark, berry, slightly leathery and grungy, not compared to a whiskey or something like that, not at all, but compared to the other grappa I've had. So I do wonder if there's less flavor in towards the head side of things in a red grape compared to a white grape. Anyway, bottoms up. It's pretty similar on the palate, to be honest, guys. Lots of that Ribena blackcurrant. I guess there's kind of that leathery, not totally horse blankety, more like sweet earth, I guess. It's quite pleasant, it really is. It's not hot, but it does have that ethanol-y, just a slight ethanol-y taste. Once again, I wonder if I went a little too far into the heads. Only time will tell to see if that will mellow out a little in age. So all in all, guys, I'm really quite happy with this. It turned out wonderfully. If you do this on a regular basis and you know your way around grappa, I would love to hear your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Perhaps I've done well, what I've done not so well, what you think I can expect from these ones that are aging. So thanks a bunch to Khalif and the crew at the winery for hooking me up with some raw materials. That's so much appreciated. Thanks to the people that gave me advice on this little project, and thank you for showing up, hanging out, and watching it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. That actually helps me out a bunch. Drop a comment in the comment section down below if you've got something interesting to say, or you just want to say hi. And if you're enjoying this content and you're not subscribed yet, make sure you click the subscribe button. All right, until next time, keep on chasing the craft. I'll see you next time. See ya.